And then the next one in is the wisdom body or the intuitive body, the Buddhic body, where where the information that comes in dreams comes from, where intuition comes from, is the next rung in, the intuitive dimension. And then the third rung in is so they say the mental body. But I would say, you could say mental/emotional body, but really it would be wiser to call it the psychological body. Everything, psyche, soma, is in that third rung in. The mind, the somatic, and the psychic. And then the next rung in, the fourth rung in, is the energetic sheath, the energy body, which is the prana, the chi. It envelops us all. The prana and the chi. And then inside of all of this marvelousness, in the center of it all, see, there's a drawing of it. In the center of it all is your physical body and the world. You know, we talk about dream time. The Aborigines talk about dream time, and dream time would seem like something other, but this is dream time. There are other dream times. We wander from one dream time to another, but this is a dream. Not a dream as if it's not real or substanceless or something, but it's a magical unfoldment that's happening inside. And so we're not separate beings on a path, moving forward and trying to go into something. We are vast beings that are holding within ourselves all the way through this dream about who we are as separate beings and everything that happens to us. It's a different perspective. And so also, we talk about seeds. Our sense of humor is a seeding, a power. Creativity is a seeding, it's a power. Human sexuality is a seeding, it's a power. Sleep is a seed. People will tell you they can't meditate, but every night they can go in and go into the deep sleep state, Sushupti, which is the equivalent of Samadhi, every night, effortlessly, or almost effortlessly, every night. No one taught you. It's a seeding, you came in. All of these things, our conscience is a seeding. So I want to encourage you to embrace your divinity as you already are, and the powers that you already have, and the immensity of what you already are. Not some little thing inside yourself you're trying to unlock. You're this vast thing, and you're carrying around at the center of your being a life, an incarnation, a dream time that you're sharing with all the other people who are carrying around, all the other vast beings here, carrying around inside themselves this dream time that we share together. Much bigger, much bigger. 10 legs, 10 arms, 5 heads. This is another Hilma Afton. This is her, what a human being is. What a human being is. So, there's terms I steal from the Sufis. I steal from all of it. I have an Indiana Jones attitude towards the teachings. So I snatched these two and put them in my sack and ran from the Sufis. But Hal is a state, and Maqam is a station. In the Hal, you have a revelation or an experience or a euphoric state, a revelation, a state of expanded consciousness. And then after that, your Maqam, your station, where you are, your default mode changes with each Hal. You get wider, you get deeper, you get higher, you get more refined. Your Maqam changes, Hal after Hal after Hal after Hal. That's the technology of Bhakti, for instance, Bhakti Yoga. Well, I say Hal and Maqam, and you cannot go through this without dealing with the psychological realm. I everyone has to decide for themselves what that means or what that looks like. There's a whole chapter in I, the Dragon, of what it came to mean to me. I have opinions, which I would share with you one-on-one, but what I want to leave you with is, no matter how high or powerful your yoga, your path is, whatever, Advaita Vedanta, whatever you want to call it, there's no spiritual bypass, there's no way around the psychological dimension. You are going to go through it some way or another. So you have to choose, if you will, a modality and a way, and it's going to involve somebody else with some training of some kind, if it's not just woo-woo stuff. Is there, and there's no way through it but through it. So this is Dora Maar. You'd know her more as one of Monterey's models, but she was a tremendous photographer and artist. And this is her Sans title, 1934. Yeah. So another poem. The Cauldron of the Dark Gods. In the beginning, the dark goddess knew a loneliness so fierce that no creature could possibly comprehend it. Indeed, the revelation of such a loneliness would obliterate you before you ever arrived at its fullness. Before the dark goddess, there was utter nothingness. She is the shadow of that nothingness. And as she emerged from it, she was already dancing, undulating. She shaped a huge cauldron. And into that cauldron she poured 5 elements that she pulled from her root, her yoni, her brain, and from the midnight blue flesh of her vastness. And the fresh water of intimate personal tenderness, the love of all in one, the salt water of agape, the love of the all, the blazing magma at the core, the lava flowing, the blazing heart, the raging forest, the dark wet soil, the adamantine, the avalanche, the high winds that carry the Saharan sands over the Atlantic, myrrh and frankincense wafting from an altar, the very breath moving in and out of your lungs, and of course Akasha, the laughing, sighing emptiness of space itself. These 5 elements swirling the dark goddess's great cauldron form a world. 3 worlds in one, actually. A beauty so exquisite it is unbearable. And then, on that 3-in-1 world, a sorceress takes shape from within the swirling elements. And as she dances, this sorceress casts her own long shadow. And this shadow is itself a portal, which opens back into the being of the dark goddess, whose shadow is in turn a portal, opening back into the ferocity of that original emptiness. The sorceress stomps on the earth as it engulfs her, and she swirls in the fire as it incinerates her, and she spreads her great wings into the insatiable under of the sky as it devours her. This is the truth of all creation, of every incarnation, and of each beat of your heart. How deeply are we willing to lean into this truth? How ready to meet that awaits? This is Kiki Smith's Lilith. If you were in a room with the sculpture, she would be on the ceiling, looking down at you. And there would be other versions of her crawling along the wall. Great 20th century artist, Kiki Smith. She's done some amazing pieces. I'm going to skip this. So, I gave a talk on the 7 tales of the 7 beasts, and then it became part of I, the Dragon, and I wrote about the animal energies that came to me at different times in my life and brought me some kind of wisdom, some kind of medicine, some kind of strength that I I needed in those circumstances. And there were 5 natural beasts and 2 supernatural beasts. And the 5 natural beasts were the lizard, and in order were the lizard and the wolf and the cave bear and the raven and the vulture. And then the 2 supernatural beasts were the dragon and I call the 7th beast. But the 7th beast isn't one thing. It's kind of ourselves. It's another dimension of ourselves, and so it's come to me in different emanations over the years. These are 3 of them: Javavanta and Archangel Michael and Narasimha, and there are stories around all of them that are very powerful that we won't spend time on. But we're very much now, for me, in the time of the 7th beast. And so this painting, Nicholas Roerich, The Treasure of the World, you've probably seen it before. The horse coming down through the riderless horse crossing the Himalayas. And so there's a backstory, a little bit of a backstory about this. I was on a sofa on the 3rd floor decades ago at like 12 o'clock at night talking to Joe Miller, as we did sometimes. And he pulled out this print and he said, "Look at this." And it was this painting. And he told me the story of, we knew, I mean, all of us, whether you know it or not, you've seen Roerich paintings. They bubble up in our collective consciousness and our iconography. And he told me the story of a friend of his who had written numerous excellent books and had been in great despair because he felt like his work had been for naught. And Joe showed him this picture. This back in the 40s or 50s or something. He's telling his story about back in the 50s or 40s. In the gentleman's book, our books are back in the library. He showed him this picture, and he said, "You know, you're like this horse that comes up you came out over the mountains and you brought all these treasures with you to the world, and they're going to be taken and they're going to be used, and you'll never understand how much good came from it." I always remembered it, and I was always fond of this picture. But then I was looking at it the other day, and I realized I had never connected it before, because for a long time, there was a time when it's called the Death Planet years in Eye of the Dragon. It was like the doubling down on the dark night of the soul, and the ultimate fight or flight meltdown. And it was a time when, to keep my sanity, I decided I would keep a notebook. And in that notebook, I would write everything, every practice, every teaching that really mattered, strip them down like tinctures to the absolute minimum, and write them down. It's all very technical, no poetry in it or anything. I would keep this notebook, and I would have this notebook, so if you never had any books or you didn't have anything else, I would have this notebook, and I could reconstitute the path for myself, or somebody else could find it. And it was the deepest of the deepest things, not the whole Shiva Sutras, but 3, 4, 5 sutras out of the Shiva Sutras, and some passage from this Bond text, and some passage from one for the Bhakti Sutras and different things. This notebook, I still have this notebook, but I thought it was always I was like my own horse at that time. And then I thought of this again, because somehow the stories have kind of braided together for me. And I said, well, what is that? What is that on his? Because I get what's in his saddlebags. The little scrolls of all these teachings that I've written down, the notebooks, and the things, those pieces of banana leaf with symbols drawn on them, and all kinds of things that have been brought out from the recesses of Shambhala and other misters places. What is this on his on his saddle there, the burning flame. And so I went into it, and you probably already know. I mean, the horse is called the wind horse, and he's not just it is not just, of course, in Rohr's paintings. It's on all the prayer flags, flying all over the Himalayas, flying all over the world. The wind horse prayer flags, and on everyone is carrying this, and that's called the Chintamani. The Chintamani, and you can read all kinds of things about the Chintamani, what it is and what it isn't. But it's most typically translated as the wish-fulfilling jewel. And everyone said, okay, but then they're all wish-fulfilling jewel. I've wished for plenty of things. And, well, do you know, really? Would you know if your wish were answered in some way that you didn't expect it to be answered? And so the wish-fulfilling jewel, though, is very important in the deepest teachings, Vajrayana teachings, etc. But we're going to say that what is the wish-fulfilling jewel is a portal. Just as incarnation is a portal, and every breath is a portal, and every step is a portal, and every act is a portal, every syllable is a portal. It's all portals opening into portals. And when you want to access the wish-fulfilling jewel, the great power, the potentiality of our lives, right? How to access it. So I'm going to just briefly touch on these two further artifacts that I stole away from Buddhism, as I stole from Sufism. So the term bodhicitta, you can describe bodhicitta 1,000 ways, and you would never describe what it is, but each time you described it, you would be able to say something about it, and it would be a beautiful poem. Loving kindness, luminous mind, generous heart. You could just literally sit and riff on what bodhicitta, and you would kind of always just touch it, and it would slip away, but it's there. But luminous mind hyphen generous heart is pretty. That's pretty functional, pretty useful description of what bodhicitta is. In other words, a mind that's clear and a heart that's open. But they would talk about, technically, they would talk about relative bodhicitta and absolute bodhicitta. So relative bodhicitta is one of us performs an act of kindness, or we try to cultivate in ourselves kindness or cheerfulness in the face of adversity or whatever. Relative bodhicitta. And absolute bodhicitta is the fact that we have never been. We are utterly immersed in it all the time. It is the stuff of the universe. Many people only realize this after the moment of death, at or beyond the moment of death, but some people realize it before death, that literally under the layers of everything that's happening, all the swirling, under the substratum of it all is this incredible power. And this power is this love, the secret engine of the world. But it's not love that it's a seed. It's not directional. It just is. Everything rises from it. Everything comes back into it. As inconceivable as that sometimes is to us. So then the other word we'll invoke is bodhisattva, and we tell ourselves, oh well. So the story we tell ourselves, the bodhisattva, the arhat chooses to go on to the heaven realms, and the bodhisattva says, no, I will stay for, till the last person. I will be the last person off the ship. Everyone has to, before I will stay until everyone achieves, and well, that's the exoteric version of what the bodhisattva energy is, or bodhisattva attitude is, or bodhisattva, yes, what it is. And so, but what I think of it like, I have two different feelings about what Bodhisattva really is. First of all, I think that Bodhisattva is, wait a minute, leave? I don't want to leave this. I love this world. You mean I could stay? You need somebody to stay? I'll stay. I would love to stay here. This is incredible. I go back, no, I want to be here. I'm staying. Sign me up. Where do I sign? I'll be the last person out. Yeah, I'll turn out the lights after me. I'm staying on this planet with these crazy beings and this fucked up situation. I'm in. I mean, that's one thing I think about what Bodhisattva experience actually is. And the other thing is about the love part of it. Like, who would leave? Wait a minute. You want me to leave the people I love? You want me to leave the species? Leave? Why would I leave? If you love, so they're not ready to they don't have a ticket. So I have a ticket, they don't have a ticket, so I'm supposed to go. Who would do that? So it's not like, oh, I'll stay. It's like, what else would you put? Would you leave your children or your four-leggeds? If you had a choice. If you had a choice, you wouldn't. So if somebody said to Anayat Khan, when you talk to us, everybody, talk to everybody in the room gets an answer to some question that they hadn't even said out loud, and somehow you knew. How do you have all this psychic power? And Anayat Khan said, I don't have any. How does a mother know when a child is sick? Love is the mode of communication. And so the Bodhisattva is just a being that has that kind of feeling that one person might have for one person might have for a group of people or a tribe or that this person has it for everything. Most. That's different. Then Bodhisattva kind of feels like a different job. Then, all right, I'll stay. I'll forego my bliss in paradise and stay with these people until they all. It's like, no, I want to. This is great. This place is great. And leave the people, leave the creatures that I love. No, I'm not leaving. So I think the Bodhisattva it has a different kind of attitude. But anyway, the point about bodhicitta and bodhisattva is these open us those energies: loving kindness, clarity of mind, a luminous mind, and generous heart, and that kind of irreverent bodhisattvic alternate view of bodhisattvaship that I've offered you. They open us up to this possibility that we are ourselves the wish-fulfilling jewel. So I've begun to start feeling it as I call our dash of quantum. So I say a dash of quantum because we're not talking about what the bleep. We're not talking about magical thinking. We're not talking about woo-woo. If you change your thinking, you can change, you can heal. Well, maybe not. I'm talking about just a dash of quantum. We have the four fundamental laws of nature: the law of gravity, the law of strength, the law of weakness. I can't remember the fourth one. Anyway, we have four fundamental laws of nature. We have chaos theory. We actually have randomness. I know Einstein said that God doesn't play with dice, but I'm not saying that Albert Einstein is wrong. Don't believe me. I'm just saying that I might add, though, that God doesn't play with dice, but I think the goddess does. So those two things could occupy the same space, and I believe there is literally randomness and laws. So I say a dash of quantum. Because, you know, we might not be able to save that cat, Schrodinger's cat, you know, like from whether he's in the box, or whether he's dead or he's alive, or he's in the box or not in the box. But you might, if this dash of quantum that we can put out when circumstances arise, and where it seems like it's worth a shot. And what would using your dash of quantum look like? So in other words, it's not just a mechanical universe. It's not all cause and effect. It's not mechanistic. You have this dash of quantum. There's some things are wave and particle at once, for just enough to maybe exercise that dash of quantum is worth a try. And I think that's part of the wish fulfilling jewel, and the other part of it is that I think many of our wishes are answered in ways that we just don't know how to understand the ways in which they've been answered. The Chintamurti. And the horse, the riderless horse that comes across the Himalayas and carries with it the wish-fulfilling jewel. That is all of us on on our own journeys. That is who and what we are, and we're moving along in this amazing field of love that is available to us, no matter how difficult the circumstances are that we find ourselves confronting. Yeah. So I'll read one more poem. There'll be more to this when I put the text version up online. We have feasting to do. I remember numerous hells vividly. I remember numerous heavens vividly. Waves of grief and gratitude crashing against the steep cliffs of knowing. The waves intermingle far and fall far below into the tide pools of yes. The roaring of this ceaseless tumult reverberates, and from the wall of sound and utterance rises over and over like a drumbeat. Life and life only, life and life only. Late some night, at a time not yet known to me, the sands in this hourglass will run out, and without hesitation I will reach for the next heaven and the next hell, feeling ahead of my shadow and on into the mysterium. Stepping through one portal after another, I will pursue it all, again and again, life and life only. When your heart is broken beyond all healing, I encourage you to reach into the open wound and feel for the new heart that is being birthed deep within the tears. Even when your mind seemingly shatters, I want you to reach into the chaos and feel for the new mind being birthed from those countless vicious shards. It is all an endlessness, life and life only. You carried a rolled up parchment sewn into your elven cloak, whether you have hidden it from yourself or not. And written there in your own blood is a short list of true would-have-beens and should-have-beens. Late some night, at a time not yet known to you, that parchment will erupt in flames and devour itself. And all that will be left behind, what the great Comte de Lautréamont aptly termed the cage of time, will be the deep amethyst mine of your heart, the fractal generating engine of your psyche, and the tremulous, ever-shimmering membrane of your soma. And you will offer it for whatever it is worth to those few who dare enter. Life and life only. This is the truth. If you would indulge me for a moment, and just take a couple of breaths. Gentle breaths into the heart or into the belly, whatever feels best at the moment. I just want you to leave here with a sense of power, your own innate power, your own innate medicine that's growing in you all the time, deepening and growing more potent in you through your living all the time. And know that it will never be spent. It has never been wasted, and never will be wasted. And as you lean forward into whatever comes of us as we go deeper into the singularity here beyond the event horizon, with our dash of quantum, stepping from portal to portal as we ourselves are portals, and sharing our wish-fulfilling gems with each other. That it's the secret engine of the world is this love. We're going to say Om, we're going to pronounce the Ah in the heart, the U, the U in the throat, and the M in the crown. We're just going to do it 3 times, and then we'll kind of reverse it in Tibetan way. But we'll start, say 3 times Ah in the heart, 3 times U in the throat, 3 times M in the crown. And I encourage you to use your fingertips to feel the vibration in the centers. Helps awaken. Take a deep breath. Om at the throat, Ah, and in the heart, we're going to do a loud, and as Joe would say, vulgar ha. Deep breath. Madam President, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah!